Chester, with Chester makes Chester, and we're going far. Coming together and using our voice to let you know change is a choice. It's a Chester flow. Can't buy, can't rent it. If you're rocking with your city, stand up, represent it.
Oh, what a day. What a day. I feel so bad for all of you because you all came here thinking Pastor Anderson was going to preach today. You got to deal with me. You got to deal with me. But I'm so grateful when I came here straight from work, and when I turned the corner and saw all the cars, I wasn't sure if everybody, because there's about 3 or 4 churches within the block here, and I really wasn't sure if it was for today's service. And when I came in and Big Kevin let me in the back and I changed my clothes, and I said, well, how's it looking out there? He said, like a funeral. It looks like So when he said it, I said, oh really? So I knew that meant we got a good turnout for this friend. I really don't know where to start, so I'll start by thanking Pastor Anderson for this opportunity. There are not many preachers or pastors that will allow you to stand in this spot. They might let you stand down there, but not in this spot. I'll give you some background on how we even got to this point. A couple of weeks ago, I had just walked in from the gym, and Big Kevin said, I need to talk to you. Pastor Anderson wants to talk to you. I said, listen, I just came from the gym. I'm not really dressed to go to a church. He said, it doesn't matter. Let's just go. Now, on the way here, Kevin said, oh, I think he might ask you to speak, but I didn't want to speak for you, so let's just go down here and talk. I said, okay, fine. So when we got here to the church, Pastor Anderson, we mics off again. I'll just keep talking about it. Got it. Can we just turn this one on and then we'll switch back? Well, I feel like we have work. No triples, no doubles. Okay, here we go. Just singles in the plate. In the plate. So let me give you some background. So I got here to the church, we met in the back, and Pastor Anderson said, hey, listen, we know we're having this event on the 14th, and would you like to speak? And I said, sure. You want me to do the welcome? I can do that, or I can read a poem, whatever. He said, no, I'm going to sit down. I said, sit down where? He said, I'm going to sit down. I said, who's going to speak? He said, you. I said, no, brother, no. Listen, I'm not a minister. I've not done all that stuff, and I don't know. I don't want your members getting all upset because you got a lay person. He said, listen, it's my church. Qualified and you are ready. I said, I'm not going to make you do it, but if you want to do it, the invitation is good. I said, I don't know. 2 minutes later, I said, I'll do it. And let me tell you why this is so interesting to me. Pastor Anderson and I were here for about an hour yesterday. I'm going to get to this message here. I got to get this out of the way. I said to Pastor Anderson, for quite some time I've been wrestling. My spirit has been restless. And I've been contemplating what direction to go in with my life. And people have been saying things to me, you should be a minister, and you should be this. I said, no, I'm not ready for that. I'm not quite ready for that. I got some things happening in my life that I'm not sure if I'm ready for that. I said, but if and when that time comes, I'm going to ask Pastor Anderson if I can do my trial sermon in his church. He didn't know that until yesterday. I've been having this conversation for the last couple of years that I wanted to do it here because this church holds a special connection to me, and we'll get into that in a moment. So while here I am trying to figure it out, God just said, listen, let's just get this out of the way. I'm going to give you an offer that you can't refuse and bring it to you. And so Pastor Anderson, I thank you and the entire St. Luke family for allowing this day to happen. I want to thank all of my family that's here today. You all, it's too many to start naming names and all of that. I mean, it's a whole lot of y'all up in here. And friends and everything. I want to thank you all for your support. This has been, oh, my 3 best friends, they all sit in the back because they don't go to church. We've been friends for almost 30 years. We're that old, we can say that now. Brian, Art, Lamar, they're all... Young jokers don't go to church. But they're here today. I said in the text, I said, put on a nice suit. Because I got something going on in church, and they all responded the same way. What, you preaching? Then one said, what you gonna preach about? I said, just show up. And he showed up. So I want to thank them. I want to thank my father who's here. He is one of God's best examples of endurance. He is a father's father. I'm 41 and he still treats me as if I'm his baby. He makes sure I want for nothing. Whenever I bring to him and take to him, he handles it. And his example of being a great father is the example that I follow as a father. Noticeably absent today are my 2 children. That is not by design. One is in New York traveling with her mother. The other is in Maryland. He has a broken foot. Yes, I have 2 kids by 2 different women. Say something. We got some really holy people in here today. But let me tell you, I don't walk on water. I don't raise the dead. I am one of God's imperfect people. So let me be very clear. If you got a problem with me standing here today, I've been wanting to say this for a long time. The doors of the church of God. Two exits on the right, 2 in the back, and 1 up down the middle. You gonna stay? Take your seat, buckle tight, and we're going for a ride. Now that we got that out the way, thank you all for being here this morning. I really appreciate your support. I really do. This is such a big, all jokes aside, this is really a big deal to me. And I don't take it lightly. And I appreciate your patience on this Sunday. It's hot. I understand that, but let me tell you something. Kevin, has prepared quite a spread in the back there, so at least you have something to look forward to. You might not like the word, but you'll like the food. One thing Pastor Anderson said to me when I asked him about protocol, he said, I really don't have protocol. I kind of do it the way I want to do it. But before I go, I will be remiss if I didn't acknowledge one person who is here with me this morning. Last week, I'm sitting at my desk, and I sit here, he sits diagonal from me, and he's very smooth, very easygoing. He walked by and he said, DC! I said, what's up, Bob? He said, I'm trying to change some things around, brother. I think I'm gonna come down there to see you. I said, well, Bob, you know, if you can do that, I really appreciate it. He said, man, I'm telling you, I'm trying to change some things around. Then after that, he will walk through the newsroom and he'll yell out, Ephesians! different scriptures. And I would go, yep, I got you. He didn't know he was putting pressure on me. I'm like, come on, Bob. I mean, on the Eagles team right now, y'all don't make it. But I want to acknowledge my man, Bob Shipper. Without acknowledging his beautiful wife. I really appreciate it. You know, we work in an industry full of A types and different personalities, and sometimes selfishness runs rampant and wild. But you're a man of your word. You know, you said we're family, and I really appreciate you being here for me this morning and supporting me. It means a lot to me, and words really can't express how much it means. If you would do me a favor and open up your Bibles to the book of Job. I'm going to go read verses 1 through 12 and then skip down to verses 20 to 22. It will make sense why I'm skipping later. I'm not going to ask you to stand. If you don't have a Bible, then ask your neighbor. And if you're in a row where no one has a Bible, you need Jesus. Job, chapter 1, verses 1 through 12. Then we're going to skip down to 20 to 22. You with me? Amen. In the land of Uz, there lived a man whose name was Job. This man was blameless, and I'm reading from the NIV version, so if my version sounds different than yours, don't panic, it's still God's word. This man was blameless and upright. He feared God and shunned evil. He had 7 sons and 3 daughters, and he owned 7,000 sheep, 3,000 camels, 500 yoke of oxen, and 500 donkeys. And had a large number of servants. Was the greatest man among all of the people of the East. His sons used to hold feasts in their homes on their birthdays, and they would invite their 3 sisters to eat and drink with them. When a period of feasting had run its course, Job would make arrangements for them to be purified. Early in the morning, he would sacrifice a burnt offering for each of them, thinking perhaps my children have sinned and cursed God in their hearts. This was Job's regular custom. One day the angels came to present themselves before the Lord, and Satan was among them. The Lord said to Satan, "Where have you come from?" Satan answered the Lord, "From roaming throughout the earth, going back and forth on it." Then the Lord said to Satan, "Have you considered my servant Job? There is no one on earth like him. He is blameless and upright, a man who fears God and shuns evil." "Does Job fear God for nothing?" Satan replied. "Have you not put a hedge around him and his household and everything he has? You have blessed the work of his hands, so that his flocks and herds are spread throughout the land. But now stretch out your hand and strike everything he has, and he will surely curse you to your face. The Lord then said to Satan, very well, then everything he has is in your power. But on the man himself, do not lay a finger. Then Satan went out from the presence of the Lord and got busy. Skipping now to verses 20 to 22. At this, Job got up and tore his robe and shaved his head. Then fell to the ground and worshipped and said, naked I come from my mother's womb, and naked I will depart. The Lord gave, and the Lord has taken away. May the name of the Lord be praised. In all this, Job did not sin by charging God with any wrongdoing. I want to simply speak from the text this morning of I will survive. I will survive. While considering what I was going to share this morning, I spent a considerable amount of time first praying, asking God to speak into my words, think into my thoughts, and work in this deed as He would see fit. I wrote down what seemed like 100 subjects. Spoke to a few different people for guidance, did some more reading, researched all the great men of the Bible and all of the parables that we have come to learn and love. But there was always one person that has resonated with me. His strength, his endurance, his conviction, his faith, his relentless and unapologetic love of God in the face of unbelievable tragedy is what moves me every time. That man is Job. Job is, of course, one of the Bible's great dramatic stories. It tells the story of a man who is incredibly faithful to God. Job has everything, and I mean everything, but comes up against an attack so severe and so horrible that he loses everything, including nearly his own life. But he ultimately emerges with his faith intact. This story, in essence, examines in part the nature of sin and suffering, even when you are righteous. Job went from being prosperous to persecuted, and from riches to ruins. And it happened at the hands of the man Job claimed he would love to no end. That word persecuted is important. Follow me here. Because although there has been much debate about the meaning of Job's name and whether or not it has a meaning, through my research, the overwhelming consensus is that Job is a Hebrew name meaning persecuted or hated. Now, one might agree with that consensus because I've yet to meet anyone named Job. And maybe it's for obvious reasons. The same reason why I have yet to meet anyone named Jezebel. A woman often referred to as the she-devil. I make that note because many of us in our lives are assigned names according to our destiny. My daughter's name is Journey. We believe she will blaze trails in the world and make paths of excellence. My son's name is Xavier Zion Clark. When you put the names together, it means God's splendid symbol. They were named according to their path. They were charged through their name. Now that's for my name. I don't know what my Aunt Martha did. I only know one other person with a name like me. And he plays for the Warriors. He spells it different and he pronounces it different. He uses a D and he pronounces it Draymond. I pronounce my name Draymond. Now he plays for the Warriors. He makes millions. My name is Draymond and I'm here with you. So Marshall, maybe you should have named me Draymond instead of Draymond. But back to Job. So Job's very name, you would think, would cause him pain and just act a fool. But yet he is said to be outstanding, a man of integrity. He fears God, stays away from evil, and avoids negativity. By all accounts, You can't get any better than Job when it comes to having it all and still remaining faithful to God. Let me make this more relevant. Some of us, while in the midst of going through hardships, will pray to God for 40 days and 40 nights and beyond, pleading for that blessing to bail us out of whatever mess that we created for ourselves. And when you're blessed, you're done. No more praying, no more pleading, just thank you, God. I'll see you the next time I need you. No obedience to God. Using him for what you think he's worth. Job wasn't like that. He kept praising and kept thanking God for all that he had because it was more than sufficient. But such is life. When you're blessed, there's always someone looking to destroy you, ruin your reputation, say horrible things about you, lie on you, do whatever they can to bring you down to their level because misery loves company. And it's all because you're blessed. So here comes Satan, looking, searching, determined to find a victim. Now get this, it is God who offers up Job. Now that's the part that will mess your head up. Here is Job, one of God's most faithful servants, and God dines him out and offers him up. And at the same time says to Satan, you can't break him. He won't go against me. Satan says, well, neither would I. If you gave me as much as you gave him, all of that money, all of that land, all those animals, all those servants, and a beautiful family to go with it, of course I wouldn't say a negative thing against you. But then he says, listen, I bet you if you strip him of everything, he will surely curse your name. His faith is phony, Satan says, and he will crumble when the pain, agony, and affliction sets in. He will turn away from you and deny your very existence. So God says, okay, it's right there in chapter 1, verse 12. Very well then, everything he has is in your power, but on the man you cannot lay a finger. Take all of his worldly possessions, take his family, but you better not touch him. Another servant said, all of your children have been killed. They were eating at their oldest brother's house, and a strong wind swept in and collapsed the four corners of their home, and they're all dead. Job jumped up, tore off his clothes, and shaved his head and dropped to the floor and declared, naked I came into the world, and naked I will go out. The Lord gave, and the Lord has taken away. May the name of God be praised. In all this, Job did not sin by charging God with any wrongdoing. In the interest of time, Satan went on to afflict Job with boils and sores from the crown of his head to the soles of his feet. Job was sick and almost died. His friends said, what did you do? You've been walking around here like you're righteous, saying all the right things, supposedly doing all the right things. You had to do something to lose your children, to lose your sheep, to lose your servants. What have you done, they said. In contemporary times, one might go, I didn't do anything. Job's own wife said to him, just curse God and die. Job says, woman, you talking crazy. You must think I'm a fool. Psalms 14:1 tells us the fool says in his heart, there is no God. They are corrupt, their deeds are vile. There is one who does good, or no one who does good. Job says in chapter 13, verse 15, though he slay me, yes, yet will I hope in him. Indeed, this will turn out for my deliverance. And then if you go over to chapter 14, verse 14, Job says, if a man dies, he will live again. All the days of my hard service, I will wait for my renewal to come. This man never lost his faith. All the hell he's going through. And he remains steadfast, trusting and believing that he will come through like pure gold. The devil can't understand it. He has hit this man with everything he has, and won't break. He's bending, but he's not breaking. But you can't go through all of that without looking like a mess. Job may have screamed, he may have cried, he may have been angry and in pain, but he holds on to God's hand until God responds to him favorably and rewards him with a long life and peace of mind. Many of you know that in 2016, it was the worst year of my life. In this very church, standing in this very spot, first I spoke over my brother's body and then my mother's. Their funerals were held exactly 5 months apart to the day. And that's not an exaggeration. My brother was killed in a car crash and my mother died from cancer after a very courageous fight. I knew when I watched my mother descend into the ground that my life would never be the same. I knew my mother had been diagnosed with stage 4 cancer, but I thought surely if God took my brother, then he would spare my mother's life, because there's just no way he would leave me in this world without both of them. And I want to believe in that it would happen just like that. But a few weeks after my brother died, my mother started getting worse. It seemed the cancer was thriving suddenly. My mother was having a difficult time with my brother's death, crying constantly, sleepless nights, and sometimes just downright angry. The cancer was inspired by my mother's grief and took full advantage of her body. It metastasized at an unbelievable rate. She woke up one morning and she couldn't see. It had moved to her brain. We had to take her to another unit and have the tumor and have it shrunk so she could see again. She called me and said, I can see again. It took weeks for that to happen. I would look at my mother sitting in front of the TV with one eye open and one eye closed. The cancer was killing me. To help you understand how close my mother and brother were, she died July 28, 2016, one day after my brother's birthday. Job is all up in me. Prior to 2016, living in New York City, making great money, working at the #1 station in New York City. Life was good and looking better every day. I was thankful to God for the blessings He had given me. My children were happy and healthy. I was just good. And then boom, 2016 hit. But I thought I had it under control. I went back to work. I kept traveling, I kept my schedule, and maintained things at home. But in 2017, things started falling apart. You can't outrun grief. It seemed wherever I went, there was a dark cloud over me. I became more distant, more detached. I only did what was necessary or needed. I had really become a shell of myself. I was depressed and on multiple occasions considered taking my own life. I died and no one knew it. Right. And I kept asking God, what is the point of all of this? What are you trying to prove? You've already taken so much from me. And why did you choose me? I've not cursed your name. I've not denied your existence. I've only testified on your behalf when called to do so. What is the point of all of this? And it seemed the more questions I asked, the darker it seemed to get. And yes, there was a time, if I can be honest, when I teetered on the edge of asking, what is this thing called faith? Is it really real? No one ever told me God had a cruel side. Those were my thoughts. and my struggles. Is heaven a real place? Did Terry and Kevin really go to heaven, or are they just over there off of Edgemont in the cemetery? These were my thoughts. See, these are the kinds of questions you ask yourself when you're grieving and going through things. And there are some people here today who can relate. Because you've had the same experience. While others will never admit it because they'd rather have you believe they are impervious to pain. When in reality, we can see and sense your pain from a mile away. I kept asking, and I wanted answers. God said, okay, you want out? You want answers? You want to be like Job? Hear me out. Number one, you need to learn how to be faithful. You are protected by me, but I haven't parted you from pain and suffering. What I've given you is my personal assurance of grace and mercy. And Dray, understand, you don't always deserve grace, but I bless you anyhow. Get your faith back. I know you were a good guy. I know you was a good son and brother. I know you believe in me. I know you love your family. I just need you to know that no matter what kind of storm you go through, I am your protector. No weapon formed against you shall prosper. Or maybe you need to be reminded about Psalms 34:1. I will bless the Lord at all times. His praise shall continually be in my mouth. Be faithful, Dray. Trust in me. If anything can confuse the devil and evil people, it's faith. Faith is one of those things you can take with you to the grave. Faith is that thing that tells you to hold on. You've got to have faith when you lose it all and willing to risk it all. Because your faith makes it so. And God reminds you that I will be with you in good times and in bad. Trust in me. Number two, you want to be like Job, Dray? Learn how to suffer. Learn how to suffer. Bad things do happen to good people. In fact, one of the best-selling books that someone recommended to me when I was going through this was a book called When Bad Things Happen to Good People. And the author writes in one of the quotes, he says, we can't pray that God makes our lives free of problems. This won't happen. And it is probably just as well. We can't ask him to make us and those we love immune to disease, because he can't do that. We can't ask him to weave a magic spell around us so that bad things will only happen to other people and never to us. People who pray for miracles usually don't get miracles any more than children who pray for bicycles, good grades, or good friends. But people who pray for courage, for strength to bear the unbearable, for the grace to remember, you are strong and you will endure. In other words, you're equipped to handle your suffering. But suffering can be perplexing and frustrating. Why does a 56-year-old woman who bothers no one, loves to laugh, love her grandchildren, watch crime TV, suddenly come down with an illness? The very disease she watched her sister die from, and said, Dray, I never want to die like that because it looks too painful. Why does a 31-year-old young man who works hard every day, takes care of his son who just left, hands out free haircuts for nothing, get killed in a car crash? Why does it happen? Suffering can be perplexing. But it's during your suffering when you find yourself drawing closer to God. It's during your suffering when you will learn to raise your voice to the heavens and say, Lord, I need you now. No shame, no shame. I haven't always done right by you, but I need you now. It's during your suffering that you learn to get on your knees. Close your eyes, put your head back, raise your hand, and submit to God's will. And out of those words, trust eyes straight. Your suffering is necessary. God has already ordained and declared that whatever you come up against, my insurance policy is good. Like a good neighbor, I'm right there with you. The Bible tells us He knows how much you can bear. Number 3, you got to serve in the midst of your suffering. See, remember, in Job, God said to Satan, have you considered my servant Job? He didn't say, have you considered the rich guy that I blessed? He didn't say, have you considered the man or woman that drives a Mercedes and lives in a 5-bedroom home? He said, have you considered my servant Job? God knew that no matter what Job was going through, he was going to still serve. That's a hard thing to do when you're under attack and you're still expected to serve. Let me make this more relevant. Showing up in church every Sunday, because church folk can be messed up. You show up in church on Sunday, they lying about you, saying all kinds of crazy things about you, causing you pain, but you usher. You don't want to give that joker nothing, but you still gotta serve. Even in the midst of your anger and your suffering. And Job gives us that template. Let me give you even more of a personal example. In my own personal life, that special person that I spend time with, she likes to start trouble every once in a while. Start arguments and say something smart, right? I think it's like I'm gonna get Dray riled up. Watch this one, I'm gonna get into something. So and just like clockwork, I get all riled up. And she look and smile and shake her head and say, no, give me a kiss. I ain't giving you nothing. Because I'm too caught in my own feelings. You got to learn how to serve in the midst of your suffering. But seriously, imagine here Job is serving God and all that pain. Some of us can't serve without recognition and a title. If we don't get what we want, we can't be moved or compelled to do anything. But a real child of God serves to no end. Because guess what? When that time comes, and surely it will come, and when the sun sets on your life, and you are called into judgment, the only thing you want to hear is, well done, thy good and faithful servant. I remember when my Aunt Marcia, my mother's oldest sister, was also dying from cancer. She called my mother and my Aunt Linda and said, I need you all to come to my house. Okay. My mother told me, then when we got to the house was dark. It was just sad. She said Marcia was sitting there. She was sick, and she had her head down. And she said, Marcia, are you all right? And she said, no, Terry, I'm not all right, but I'm going to be all right. I'm going to be all right. Meanwhile, take this envelope and make sure the church gets this envelope. This is my tithing money. I may not be in church, but God still deserves his portion. Serving in the midst of her suffering. Body afflicted with cancer. Serving in the midst of her suffering. In pain. Can barely hold her head up. But serving in the midst of her suffering. Here you sit. Walking, talking, cute, confident, and so you ain't doing nothing for nobody. And if I ain't talking to you, you won't be offended. So if you just roll your eyes, jackpot, I'm talking. My last point, how is your worship game? have the strength to say thank you? When it seems like life is pulling a Mike Tyson on you and wearing you out every round, do you still have the strength to say thank you? Even though you just lost your mother, your brother, your husband, your wife, your child, or even your dog. Can you say thank you? Even though your job has just told you we're closing down and we're laying you off. Can you say thank you? Even though your significant other just said to you, I want a divorce, I don't love you anymore. Can you say thank you even though the doctor just diagnosed you with cancer, diabetes, high blood pressure, or heart disease? Can you say thank you even though your finances are not quite where you want them to be? Can you say thankful or thank you in spite of all of that? Where is your worship game? Worship is that secret to keep Negroes away. You don't like me? Worship. You don't have that money you owe me? I ought to kick your worship. So-and-so said you was no good. You tell so-and-so I said go to worship. See, it really doesn't matter what you say to me. Because I've got faith. I'm prepared to suffer. I know how to serve in the midst of my suffering. And above all else, my worship is undefeated. So when you see me, you call me stuck up. You call me stupid. You call me arrogant. You call me scared. You can call me broke. You can call me hopeless. Don't even call me Dray. Just say, yo, Joe! Is there's some Jobs in here this morning. Maybe you have had your Job experience. Maybe you are in the midst of your Job experience. And maybe you're about to have your Job experience. Evil is relentless. And the moment you decide to do the right thing with your life and follow God's action plan for your life, you come under attack. The interesting thing is, when I was doing research, see Ryan, I read and I researched. It was said that Job really was not a real person. That he was a fictional person used to illustrate a dramatic poem. That's what some believe. I'm going to disagree with that. Because I know too many people like Job. How could it be that his experience is so similar to my own? Let me tell you something else about your Job experience. There will be people who will watch you suffer. And they will take great satisfaction in your suffering. They will stand at a distance. They will look at you and they will say, finally, finally, I have the pleasure of watching him or watching her suffer. Your Job moment will be your own, but there will be others who will watch in great satisfaction. Then there will be those who really don't know what to do. See, when I was going through my Job in my family, I'm usually the one that speaks. I'm usually the one that kind of tries to keep everybody motivated to say something positive. They don't know how to deal with me. Because I'm usually the one trying to tell them something in the midst of our pain. So what do you say to the motivator when the motivator needs motivated? They didn't know what to say. And I hid it from them. They didn't know I was in counseling. They didn't know I was dealing with depression. They didn't know I had become suicidal. It was my moment. It was my moment. But I knew I had my family to support me. I knew they would have my back no matter what. But you only get one mother. Let me tell you something about Terry Lynn Clark. I always say this, I could rob a bank tomorrow. Walk in the house with the bag and the money falling out the bag. Close the door and the cops will knock 5 minutes later. Ma'am, I think your son just robbed the bank. Oh, no, you
That's
didn't.
right.
My son. No, not my son.
That's right.
Oh, he don't do that, God. He don't do that. Thank you for coming. Right? You're going to jail. That's my mother. She was riding out. 4'11", tough. Tough. But she loved me. She loved me. And when she was about to die, she said, son, I'm sorry that I'm leaving you in this world by yourself. Kevin is not here, and I'm not going to be here. But you've been good to me. You've been good to me. You did everything you could do. She called Sister Ella Kalk, had a conversation with her. I don't know what Mother Kalk said to her. But she called me back and said, I'm ready. I'm not scared anymore. I'm still having my Job moments. I still walk carefully. This week has been hard for me. And I've not said a word. It's a mix of sweet and sour. Grateful that I had this opportunity to speak this morning, but just upset that my mother and brother are not here to see it and to hear it. And the question was asked to me multiple times this week, what's wrong with you? And I would say nothing. I would say nothing. But my spirit just wasn't right. I miss my mother too much. And people say, have the audacity to say to someone, well, how long you gonna breathe? When you gonna give up? I know people who lost their children and parents 30 years ago. They hear a song and they lose it. I can't even move on Mother's Day. I can't move.
I understand.
It's hard for me to function. I came here this morning because now my goal in life is to be transparent.
Right.
It's funny, I spoke down at Cornerstone a couple of weeks ago, and after the speech for the baccalaureate service, I had dinner with Dr. Bradley, sort of a debrief, and he said, Dray, there was a woman there who heard you speak. He said she was thinking about taking her life. And then she heard you speak, and she pulled herself together. He said she was afraid to come and shake your hand. Now, I'm not taking credit for that. But what happened in that church on that day was I laid it all out on the table. And I said, I could easily stand here and give you a pie in the sky, well-crafted speech about God, this and God, you work hard and all of that. It's hard. Let me tell you something. When all that was happening, people would come and sit next to me and go, say things that come out automatic. God never gives you more than you can bear. Joy comes in the morning. You just hold on. No, it's not what I want to hear. It's not what I want to hear. I know what's about to happen. I'm about to go through something.
Amen.
And there ain't nothing you can say to me or give to me to remove this feeling.
Right.
I'm a motherless child.
Amen.
My family is great, but I'm a motherless child. You will have your Job moment. But you will come out strong. You will come out different. You will learn to believe in yourself. And you will learn to minister to yourself. See, some people come to church to get high. They come to church to get high. They want to come, have the Brooks sisters play music. I know you're Miss Brooks, you know. But they're a team. There's three. 1, 2, 3. There's 4. 4. I was going to get it right. 4. You want to come in here in St. Luke and have them play some hooping and hollering, and you want to do all this and all that, and then when the music stops, your high come down. And you lost you don't know what to do. You better learn to minister to yourself. You better learn to talk to yourself. I spend a lot of time talking to myself in the car. I spend a lot of time talking to myself. What you gonna do? Man, I don't know what I'm gonna do. Where we gonna go? I don't know what we're gonna do. What we gonna do? I don't know what we're gonna do. Man, you crazy. I ain't crazy. You better learn to minister to yourself. Don't think because you come to church every Sunday and go to Bible study that you won't come up against no problem. But when that doctor says to you, listen, we got the results. Is anybody here with me? That's the problem. That's the first problem. When they ask you that, anybody say something's wrong? Something, he about to tell you something you don't want to hear. All you hear about yourself. Number two, so get on with it, Doc. When my mother was diagnosed, I was in Florida. Jana called me, and I left my phones in the hotel room. I didn't want to be bothered. And finally, they reached me. And make a long story short, your mom was been diagnosed with cancer. Mother was, I flew home the next day, met with the doctor. I said, okay, doctor, what stage is my mother? She said, why do you want to know that? I said, I'm just curious why you want to know that. Because people always ask that question. I said, well, two things. One, if people always ask that question, you ought to be used to answering it. Two, I want to know what I'm up against. Because I got to try to save this woman's life. But she ain't built for this life. She's scared. What is it? She said 4. I said, thank you. I left. I said, okay, let's fight. Let's fight. I didn't get on my knees, cry, and say, why my mother? I said, let's fight. Amen. Let's fight. Let's go. Before my mother's chemo treatment, I called every minister I knew and had them over there at 2418 Madison Street, including Mother Carr, who I picked up personally. And we formed a circle, am I lying? And we formed a circle around my mother. And before she had her first chemo treatment, we prayed. Now, some of you might say, well, it didn't work because she died a year later. Oh, you think it didn't work. Let me tell you why it worked. Let me tell you why it worked. Because she was scared to death most of the time. Scared. I mean, just could not get quite comfortable. We tried to have parties for her, but you could tell it was on her mind. But in the end, she's ready. She won. You better get your house in order. Because surely as day follows night, it's coming. I don't pray evil upon you. I don't pray sickness upon you. But you better get your fight game ready. Get it. I don't know what God is going to do with me going forward. I don't know if I'm going to be a minister. I really don't know. It will be God's plan for me. And I can't do anything about it. But I'm going to keep living the best life that I can live. I'm going to keep doing the best that I can. And I'm imperfect. I got some things I still got to work through. But I'm trying to keep moving forward. This day wasn't by accident. I didn't know what I was going to say until 3 days ago when I started putting this together. You know what I was going to say?
Well done.
Talk about family, family together, stays together, friends together, all that, man. No. This thing is personal to me. I may not ever have another opportunity to speak this way again because I don't know what God's plan is. But you will have a Job moment. But you will survive. Trust in God. Believe in yourself. And fight the best fight that you can. I am living proof that it can happen. I am proof that God is real. God is real. Somebody said, God is a hustle. God's word is not a hustle. It's the hustler that's hustling God's word. This is no hustle. I don't know how to hustle you. My transparency may scare you. Sometimes people go, why are you telling that? Why are you saying, what am I going to lose? I'm going to lose. Don't you know sometimes when you just open your mouth and share things with people, you can save a life? I never want to be the kind of preacher that whoop and holler. So if that's what you thought you were going to do today, sorry. It's not my style, it never will be my style, but I can dig it. I think it's nice when other preachers do it. But it ain't going to be my style. If God pulls me in that direction, I just want to do His will. Teach His word. And let folk know that you don't have to be perfect when you walk in God's house. God doesn't want you when you get it all together. He wants you in here, He wants you to come in here a mess. And that's the problem with church now. It's almost like you never had permission to come into God's house and look a certain way and be bad and bougie and all that. That ain't what God wants. He wants you to come in here with your mess. So that when He takes you and shakes you and molds you and remixes you, if you need it, come and get it. And if you got it all together, get out of the way and let somebody else share. Since you got it all together, make room for those of us who know, I ain't got it today, but I'm going to go get it. Get out of the way. Don't block anybody's blessing because you got it all together. I'm sorry. Because you come to church acting. Fraud. Phony. Because somehow you think if you tell folks you don't have it together, they might think you're weak. No, we think you're strong. That's why you're in church. Because of replenish, restore, get it together again. That's why God touched you this morning and woke you up. A chance for you to get it right all over again. It could have gone the other way. It could have gone the other way. But for whatever reason, He touched you and gave you another reason to get it right. Every time you wake up and breathe, that's your chance to get it right again. You can't tell me that God don't get tired. Some of us just can't quite get it together. But God said, that's okay. I'm going to give you another chance. Touch. Touch. Boy, I thank God for this opportunity. Thank you.
Well done.
Thank you. God did what He said He was going to do. I just asked Him to use me. Maybe He didn't like what I had to say, and that's okay. but I feel like somebody heard me. Somebody got it. Somebody got it. What a day. What a day. I can't thank my family enough. Boy, I really can't. You all support me in such an unbelievable way. And when I put my mother in the ground, I really believe that I was the loneliest man in the world. But every time we get together, I'm reminded of what family means. I know y'all say I'm crazy and I'm cheap. Some of it is true. But God's doing something to me. And I don't know what it is. Just give me room. Give him room to do what he has to do. St. Luke, you don't owe me anything. You allowed me a platform to share God's word. I'm not a minister. I'm not ordained. Pastor Anderson just said it was on his heart to do it. And I can never repay him for this opportunity. I just say thank you. Thank you for coming today. And thank you for those who came here from Baltimore and other places. Thank you. It means a lot to me. It really does. God bless you.
CHESTER, with Chester makes Chester, and we're going far. Coming together and using our voice to let you know change is a choice. It's a Chester flow. Can't buy, can't rent it. If you're rocking with your city, stand up.